Rebbe Mori, Rabbi Yonatan Dorfman, my dear Rebbe, thank you so much for coming on the show. Welcome to the Growth Oriented Podcast.
Pleasure to be here, Tzvi. Pleasure to be here.
Amazing. But I don't want to get anything wrong. Can Rebbe please introduce yourself? Because Rebbe also has an incredible podcast, a fresh new yeshiva. For my audience who doesn't know and is not familiar, I just don't want to get anything wrong.
Sure. Yeah. So on top of the Kollel, which I'm the Rosh Kollel of, I'm also a Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Yedidhamelech, which is a very amazing, more original Gaonic Rishonik style. And people are welcome to look us up. But within that, instead of just having speakers lecture, we have more of a podcast style, which I like. So we get to know more intimately with the giants of the generation that I think are interesting. What wisdom do they have to share with the greater public, not just necessarily the Jewish public? So we've had famous psychiatrists to directors of marriage organizations, commanders that saw combat that, were also religious in the Israeli army. And we have some really exciting guests coming up, from archaeologists to deans of schools. So I think it's important for people to just to be able to be learning, to learn from everyone. So that's all I'm trying to do. The agenda is to have good conversations with people that have what to share with everyone.
Is that the hashkafa of the yeshiva? Is lo mikol adam?
No, I mean, it's a nice hashkafa, but I think the hashkafa of the yeshiva is more Bachram have no limits. So the style of the yeshiva is there's a kollel and the Avrechem, and it's pretty difficult to get into our kollel. And the people here are studying for the rabbinut, so they have to be able to paskin halacha l'mais at the end of the day, and not just be able to regurgitate an answer. They have to be dynamic in how they answer. So I think that Bachram don't need to be the age of 27 and necessarily have gone to Panovich, although we do have people from Panovich Yitzhak here. Bachram can be up to the task, learn that exact same information. Gemara B'Ian doesn't need to be your cap. The level above that, you don't have to wait magically until you're married and then all of a sudden, you become a new person. In terms of Lehman, no, you're smart enough and intelligent enough. It's all about someone believing in you and you're pushing yourself enough. So in the yeshiva, that's what we do. We have Bachram that are 21, 22, 23 sitting next to 30, 31, 32, 33-year-olds. And they're all learning the same thing, and we expect the same amount from them. So they don't stop at Ian. Our Ian is just the first level. Then they do Achronim, Poskim, all the medieval commentaries, Torah, Sekem, Sak Halacha, and how to give Sak and how to balance Sak. So it's a lot. But so that's the style of the yeshiva, and that's something that hasn't really been around for a couple hundred years. That's how everyone used to learn, long ago. Look at the Gemara itself. The Gemara just doesn't have Ian topics and then just stop. It has a discussion, and at the end of the discussion, most of the time, the target is to have a Sak Halacha on the end. So we have the yeshiva the exact same ways. Think of it as a modern day Surah Pumpadisa.
I love it. That's so exciting. So I guess for those listening, this is probably going to be a collaborative podcast episode. We're going to be posting it both on my show and on my Rebbe show, on your show. So the topic that I think I'd love to start with is that we were just speaking about this before the show. I think it's insanely difficult to pursue both success in Gashmias and success in Ruchnias. So that's for those who are not new to the show, know that, that's kind of a core thing that I bring up. The reason I bring it up is because it's something that I struggle with myself on a very personal level. I don't ever feel like I'm doing enough religiously. I think I'm always pushing myself very hard to pursue success in my business, which is a high-end videography business based in New Jersey. Selfless plug. So my first question for Rebbe is, what is the appropriate view from a Torah perspective of money, the ultimate manifestation of Gashmias?
Well, I mean, I think the right hashkafa is that there is no such thing as balance. I think people use this word a lot. How do you, and I probably do also at times, but I think it's wrong. How do you balance work life with Torah life? How do you balance your family life with certain Torah aspirations or business aspirations? And I think that's a mistake. There's no balance. Everything is God's will if it's correct. So you can be doing the wrong thing by sitting down Shabbos afternoon and learning 4 block Gemara while your wife and 6 kids are all alone wishing that they would spend time with. That might be the wrong choice. It also might be the wrong choice to work until 2 o'clock in the morning because you have to make $100 million a year, whatever the number may be. That could be the wrong choice, right? So I think the guilt that you're feeling is either just satanic and it's just the Yitzhak trying to make you feel bad, or what it is it's trying to tell you you're trying to strike a balance. Instead, what you should be doing is just following the yellow brick road. So what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu want from you? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzvi, I'll just use you as an example. I don't know because I'm not God, but God might want you to be a cinematographer and be successful and be helping yeshivas and organizations be making really critical films, and helping them with fundraising videos and all the amazing content that you're putting out. God might want that as a tachlis for you, which means you should not be learning when you're doing those things. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Now, it is you have to ask yourself, should I be spending, does God want that for me 8 hours a day? The answer might be yes, but the answer might be no. That's more of a personal question, more for you to ask yourself. So I would say instead of balancing gashmias and ruchnias, I would say what is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me right now? And I'll speak to myself for a moment or about myself. I am by no means someone, I'm a rogue by profession, if we could call it that. But I'm not ready to live in a 1 bedroom apartment in the middle of the neighborhood and learn 80 vlad a day. I'm not even close to the madrega. The level that I'm at, I need a certain level of physicality. I just do. Is that bad? Am I doing the wrong thing? I don't think it's wrong. It depends on where I'm going. It'd be nice for me to aspire to raise myself religiously to the extent where I don't need that same physical, bar of this is how I have to live, or I'm going to feel depressed. So hopefully, as I raise in spirituality, what I need physically will go down. But since right now I'm at a level where I need X amount of physicality, then X amount of physicality is what I should have, which means, yeah, I should have my coffee. And yeah, I should be able to drive into, yeshiva. And yeah, I'm sleeping in a room that has air conditioning. But these are not bad things. This is where I'm at, right? If I want to raise myself spiritually, who knows? Tzvi, you and I could be Mashiach. We have no idea where we're going to be in 50 years, right?
I don't know
We're going to
about
keep
that.
plugging. We're going to keep, we'll find out, I guess.
Right.
We'll keep going and we'll keep plugging and we'll keep trying, and who knows where we'll end up. But you need to know where you're at. And again, instead of striking the balance, doing exactly what's right where you're at. Me, it would be wrong if I threw away my car and threw away my, my air conditioning stuff. In fact, my wife would kill me. She's a wonderful person, by the way, but she's wise. That's why she would kill me. Okay, but I could do that, but that'd be wrong. That'd be wrong to do.
Right. My follow up to that, I guess, is how does one distinguish between want and need? And just for context, that family in Bnei Brak, they're alive. They have what they need, I'm sure. So, obviously, I don't believe in comparing your story, your life circumstances to someone else, for better or worse. But sometimes, and this is a perspective offered when you're having a rough time, like, oh, well, it could always be worse, and people are doing just fine with worse. So then I hear that and I think maybe I don't really need all these things that I need. So when it comes to making a parnasa, maybe I don't really need to make X amount that I need because I could just move to the middle of nowhere where it's cheap and I can learn all day, or or just join a community where it's more acceptable and more common to make very little money, maybe mooch off the government a little bit. We're not getting political. But so again, how does someone distinguish between want and need within that context?
I think that we look for answers that we already possess. I think most people know the answer to this question, including yourself and myself. The question is how to listen to that voice that we all have. So there's a Sfas Emes I say over and over and over again. I'll very just briefly run through it because it's so critical. But basically, he says that Avram Avinu, when you heard Lech Lecha, go to Eretz Yisrael, that it wasn't a nevuah just for Avram Avinu. It's a baskol that goes out every single day that's calling to every single Jew, go back to Eretz Yisrael.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us if you wish to hear it. And that's why you can find amazing people on Birthright who barely even know that they're Jewish, and they have tattoos and a mohawk, and they want to stay in Eretz Yisrael more than, the other Rav that you met in, insert Chutz La'aretz town there. So why is that? It's because there's a voice. It's an internal voice that's telling them what's right. You're asking me, how does a person know basically what's right? What's the right level for them? I think a person knows. I think if you need your, this type of car or car at all. And it goes from filed all the way up. If you're a teenager, do you need that Xbox or whatever is popular today? But, or that phone, whatever it may be. A person knows the answer to this a lot of the time. We just don't think about it, or when we do, we overthink. Well, that person could do it. Maybe I could do it. Maybe I could balance. Let's just ask yourself simply. I live right now in a 5-bedroom apartment, and it's difficult for me to maintain it. Do I need that? What would happen if I lost a room? Instead of making, people make all these things, speak to yourself honestly. What is your inner voice trying to tell you? Tap into what you really feel, The same thing goes for pretty much anything, I feel. Like people, should I go to college? Should I do this job? A lot of the times, what you should do, We're just seeking someone else to give us some sort of direction or some magic puzzle that's going to pop out of a page that's, of course, talking to our exact issue. But be honest. That's the answer to the question. Be honest with yourself and you'll know the answer.
Right. I mean, I don't know it's so easy for me to be honest with myself. I grew up thinking that the concept of lying to yourself is a very like how could you possibly lie to yourself? How could you possibly tell yourself something that you know is not true? And as I've gone older and I've made a number of mistakes like everyone else and I've had all these experiences, I now know what that means. It's like you're listening to a voice that you know is leading you down the wrong path.
Oh,
And
wait, you see
yeah,
that? Well, hold on. But the thing that you just said, you're listening to a voice that you know is leading you down on the wrong path. So you can lie to yourself, but you know that it's a lie. You even
correct.
just said that right now, right?
But you
So
convince
I'm
yourself
talking about how
otherwise.
do you know that? Okay, but so you can convince yourself otherwise, even though it feels wrong. I'm talking about that second layer, which I feel people don't usually have contact with. That's the Voskal. That's that inner voice. That's that heavenly voice. It's the level under that. So you convince yourself, you lie to yourself, to use your words, of you should do X, Y, Z. But that inner voice is like, no, you shouldn't. But you ignore it because, like, no, you've worked it out, and the stuff, and then you also has made it rationally perfect for you to be choosing that option. Strip that away and like, what do I feel in this moment? This feels wrong, or this feels right, even though it doesn't make sense. And then tap into that. I'm not advocating that people don't think. I'm advocating that people should hear their Voskal first and then begin to think. You
Right.
know,
I
that's
hear.
that's what I'm advocating. I'll just give you one example. Okay, there was a Talmud of mine a couple of years ago, and he really, he did not more than he didn't use his phone. His phone was killing him. His smartphone was killing him. So I said, we should take your smartphone away. And his response to me is, I can't. I need it because I need to get to Tachana Merkazit. I need to get to the central bus station in Yerushalayim. So I need it. And he was convinced about that in the moment. And I just asked him, I said, do you think that that's what God wants from you? The ability to get to Tachana Merkazit? Do you need this on a deep level? And like there was a moment of just like being so surprised. And then he like totally calmed down because he was freaking out. He's like, no. And he just instantly gave it to me. So it doesn't always work that way, but it can. There is an inner voice. You just have to pay attention.
Yeah, I had that experience before the show. So I was, if, again, for those listening, I'm in a like a workroom across the hall from my apartment in our building, and I locked myself out of the workroom. I left my keys on this table here, and I couldn't get back in because this door locks. So I'm thinking to myself, my wife is still asleep, and my son didn't sleep too well last night. So my wife ended up holding him, in, so he's sleeping with her in bed. So I'm like,
She's just a
oh,
Vegas.
she is. She's literally on another level. I could not even fathom doing what she does on literally a day to day basis. So I'm thinking to myself, like, this is 10 minutes before our show is scheduled. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what should I? So I kind of had that little moment as well. And I was thinking to myself, I could knock on the door or call her and wake her up because she didn't get any sleep. And then my son would wake up and ruin the whole thing. And Rebbe, as much as I love you, I think it's more important that I either don't do the show or show up late than wake up my wife.
100%.
So I'm like, shoot,
100%.
what do I do? What do I do? And finally I realized I could just go down. It took me like a couple extra minutes to like figure out what I was going to do. I was like pacing, going to like there's a couple other, maybe there's other people in the, like there's another room down the hall that people use. Maybe there's no one there. It's like, it was like 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
So
this is my fault,
yeah,
by the way, for our listeners. I'm the one that tortured Steve making him get up so early in the morning. I'm sorry about that.
but honestly, I needed this. I really needed this.
Okay, great.
Givaldic. But yeah, it's all about kind of listening to that voice, I guess. More on that voice. I think there's a deeper thing, and that's like the existential and perhaps philosophical dichotomy between expression and submission in Yiddishkeit. So knowing when, and I think it's somewhat tied to this. I think it manifests itself in like really deep ways and like some not so deep ways, but it kind of all bundles together in people's lives to some extent. I think we grew up with an understanding of Yiddishkeit is an act of submission. It's an act of service. It's not, not in a negative way at all, but this in a good way. I'm not Chas v'shalom painting it in a negative way. The submission aspect. I think it's a good thing. I think it's important. I think it's a huge aspect of Yiddishkeit, of religion entirely, is the idea of like what you may want or feel like what your heart desires at this moment or in general is not conducive to a meaningful religious life. On the other hand, every Jew, every person is very unique and very different. I pursued a path that is very different from most other people, especially my age. So the question, when does a person know that what their self-expressive side is telling them is conducive to Yiddishkeit or not conducive to Yiddishkeit? And maybe from a philosophical standpoint, what is the Torah's perspective um, on that existential dilemma?
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. So first, I just want to talk for a moment about the term you use of submission. Just so you know, in my opinion, submission is the ultimate form of mercy. And the reason for that is when Moshe Rabbeinu goes to Pharaoh in Mitzrayim, he doesn't say the famous line, "Let my people go."
Hmm.
He doesn't say this. He says, "Let my people go so that they may worship me in the desert." Okay, so let my people go so they can be my slaves, in a sense. And the reason for this is because to let someone go is anarchy. No
Hmm.
rules is not a conducive societal structure or an individual structure by that matter. Then there's the other end of that, which is tyranny. The balance that, or the golden way that Akadosh Baruch Hu has given us is the line of purity and peace. That submission is to reach that level of tranquility, love and happiness, and balance with grief when appropriate. That it's that line that is true and perfect. So the submission is really an act of mercy. So when we take a kneel and we bow, it's like the most merciful thing in the world. It's not us like sacrificing to Hashem. It is in a sense, but what it really is it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu giving us the opportunity to tap into the most perfect form of life possible.
Hmm.
So, but to address your question a little bit more, personal expression. Shivim Panim LaTorah. I think there's so many ways within Torah study that you can tap into Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Chassam Sofer was a genius halachas. There's no question there. Now, what would happen if Rav Dessler didn't write Rav Dessler and instead he wrote Shuvas like the Chassam Sofer? I don't know, but I feel like we'd
We'd lose
probably
out.
lose more
Yeah,
than we would gain. Yeah, I
exactly.
think we'd lose more than
We'd
we
lose
would gain.
tremendously.
Why is that? It's because exactly everyone has their chalik, but it's not just in Torah. It's in what we do. It's everything because our whole entire life is for that perfect yellow brick road to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So there's an organization here called Magen Lachola. If I remember the story correctly, director of Magen. Well, let me just say what it is. Magen Lachola is one of the best organizations in the world. Okay, what they do is it's a nonprofit here in Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim, and all they do is they match up people with the best doctors for your particular ailment. That's all they do. They save lives. They do amazing things. It might sound minor, but this is literally a critical thing because they won't just choose the right doctor for what you're dealing with. They'll choose the right doctor for you in all
Hmm.
aspects. They're excellent. They really do fantastic things. Who started the organization? A Talmud of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Okay, and he was learning in yeshiva, and he was apparently quite gifted, but he was doing this on the side as a chesed. And Shlomo Zalman said, "You have to leave the base medrash because Klal Yisrael needs you more." And he says, "But Rebbe, I'm not going to learn." Because Baruch Hu didn't want you to learn. So that's his expression. He loved helping people in this very particular way. So that's his expression. That's what he's supposed to be doing. Now let's make it more complex. Okay. And I'm going to say something here that's a little bit weird, but I don't think it's weird at all. Let's say you have a talent to be a heavy metal rocker. That's your talent. So maybe you should start a Jewish heavy metal band. Yeah, I think so. I don't know why there isn't one. And I've been telling people to create one. Okay. But that's like by the way, all Christian metal, a lot of it is psukim and they have hundreds of millions of followers. And
Right.
we know it better than them. Okay. So why, right? So we just know better. Why can't we do that? Right. So is that wrong? No. Let's take the example of rap. Not something that I would classically consider Jewish, but all aspects of expression are Jewish. It just depends on are you following that yellow brick road? So you have rappers like Neeson Black. Is it such a huge feel? No. Is Neeson doing the right thing? Well, it sounds like
Hmm.
he's really offering a lot to the Jewish world. And he obviously has the talent. People love him, right?
Right.
So you're a videographer. Is that a normal profession? Listen,
Probably
when I
not.
was growing up, in yeshiva, it was doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, rabbi. Okay, right? And so an Indian chief was always placed before rabbi. Okay, no one dreams of being a cinematographer. No one does that,
Right.
but you did,
Right.
and you use that as a form of expression, and that is you. You feel connected to your work. I would not feel connected to my work if I was a cinematographer. That's because it's not me; it's you.
Hmm.
That's right. Is it ever wrong to express like the deepest parts about you? I don't think it's ever wrong. It just has to be done right.
So again, I'll use myself as an example because I think self-expression in many ways is a negative thing. I think our s- I don't think every aspects of ourselves are meant to be expressed in a way. I think there are negative aspects of ourselves that need to
Give
be
an example.
dealt with. The example is my own life is back to my job, the role that I took of becoming a cinematographer. I could have pursued a normal path And, maybe not something I'm miserable doing. In my mind, I was like, maybe I could be a psychologist. I like psychology. I like talking and helping with people. Get home after my 5 o'clock shift. My shift ends at 5. Go home, have dinner with my family, have plenty of time to learn and spend time with my kids, as opposed to what my evenings are now, where I'm like still working because I run my own company. I have so many things to do. There's so many tasks that need to be accomplished by the end of the day, to the point where it's very difficult for me to set time for learning. So setting time for learning in my life, that's a separate conversation. I'm saying, what is the answer to that question? I ask myself, what am I doing? Am I a Jew is supposed to learn. A Jew is supposed to daven 3 times a day with kavana as an ideal. I'm not saying everyone does it. Why did I do this? Just so I could express the creative side of myself after 120 years. How do I know that that was the correct decision?
So, see, I love you, but these are the wrong questions, in my humble opinion.
Okay.
A Jew should not be learning
Ready,
and
grill
davening
me.
3 times a day.
Grill me.
Okay. So I'm
Get
saying
me.
I don't think a Jew should be davening 2 times a day or learning. That's not the question. The question is what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu want me to do? Now, a lot of those times it's going to be you davening 3 times a day with the minion and learning. I'm not denying that, but these are the answers to some of the questions. The
Mhm.
question is what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu want me to do? If a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants you to be a cinematographer and have this level of business and this level of success, then no, he doesn't want your 5 hour of Gemara Rishonim and Musar, Mishnayos, Hashkafa, and Tanakh in the evening. He doesn't want that.
Right.
He wants something else from you. Should you feel guilty for not learning? Only if you're doing the wrong thing. If you're doing the right thing, then you shouldn't. Now,
Right.
I would find it shocking if you literally work from 8:30 a.m. 11 p.m. and you have half an hour left in your soul that you're going to spend with your wife until you completely conk out. That Yeah, you're at that level, and so the level of learning that Hashem needs from you is the 2 minutes that you have at your little lunch break. Is it possible? It's theoretically possible. Do I think that that's the reality? As great as you are, Tzvi, and I'm a huge fan of yours, and you know that. I don't think that you're necessarily at the 2 minute mark.
For
Okay,
sure.
so, but that's more the question. Like, if you're doing the right thing and Akadosh Baruch Hu's name is being glorified exactly the right way, I don't think you need to feel guilty that you're not learning hours and hours every day. What
Interesting.
I would say.
Yeah, it's that central idea of what does God want from you? What if someone doesn't know what if someone doesn't know what God wants from them?
I think that that's again more an inner voice question. Like, okay, I I'm awake for 15 hours, whatever it is. Okay, doing stuff. So what do I have to bring to the table? So you're kind of a little bit of a different case because you have a fairly novel way of going about the world. You're pumping out media. You're creating a lot of content, and not just for yourself, but for other people as well, for yeshivas and very chashuv causes. Let's make it a little simpler, just so we understand a little easier. Let's say you have an accountant. So you're an accountant in a firm, and there's 30 other accountants in that firm. Okay. So how much does a Kadosh Baruch Hu need what you're doing? Well, why are you doing what you're doing? You're a member of a firm, and the firm has nothing really to do with Yiddishkeit, let's say. There's plenty of accounting firms that are, Jews. Let's say you're the only Jew in the company. So what that job really is it's just giving money to your family. There's not much more that it's doing, but maybe that's the best way for you to provide with your family right now. Okay. So do you need to stay the extra 2 hours in the evening in order to get a little bit of a bump? Or should you be looking for a little bit of a pay cut? So instead of getting home at 5:30, you'll get home at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, because then you'll be able to see your kids more and have enough time for your wife and not yell at her because you're not going to be stressed out and it's more of these inner questions. So it gets more complex as you go along and you have more of a dynamic lifestyle. So within your lifestyle or my lifestyle, I'm doing a lot. I'm also pumping out content and I'm teaching and I'm building my yeshiva and I'm building my kollel and I have a family and how do I know that I'm doing the right thing and that I'm following that yellow brick road? So that requires a lot of, again, inner asking of maybe people don't need to hear what I need to say about this topic. And I'm just saying that I think people do, but I know that I don't need to really talk about this topic. And the opposite is true. Last year, personally, if you want to, I'll share a personal issue. Last year, I made an error and I pushed too much to one side on giving myself up. And it was a totally selfish thing to do, really, because I thought that there were people that really needed to hear tons of Torah on a particular topic. And I pushed myself past the limit. And it hurt me. It hurt me and it hurt people around me because I just was absent and I don't think I was as positive as I could have been. And like near the end of it, I knew it was wrong and I was never going to do that again. So like I learned, but it was about asking that inner voice, like looking around, is this really what God wants from me? And is what I'm building something that God puts his skama on? And even though it was Torah, the answer was no. So I immediately stopped as soon as I came to that realization, pulled it back. And then, by the way, in response, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me a hug. Somehow I was able to pump up more Torah and have more time
Right.
for my kids. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? So, but it's all about being really honest with yourself on every level. I think
Right.
that's the way to do it.
So I was gonna ask you on like the Amuna versus effort question. I think it's overdone, that whole conversation. And I think a more nuanced way of looking at it, at least for me, is this insane innate sense of control. I think it's more about control than like how much work should I put in versus how much should God help me. For that, I used to ask that question a lot. It comes at least for me, it comes naturally. Like I know when like I've pushed myself enough. There's also the idea that, people push so hard and nothing works, and people don't push at all and something works. So like it's a matter of fact of life. Even the non-Jewish world accepts this idea as luck. But I think control and our drive for control is a better way to look at it. So maybe it's not really a question. I guess that's like something I'm throwing at you of like, do you think, I mean, maybe the question is, do you think that that's an accurate way of thinking about that topic of like, am I doing enough?
What do you mean by control? Every part of
Yeah.
your situation is stable? Like, what do you mean by control?
I think that people have an unrealistic expectation of what they can control in their lives, and it eats them up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it goes even deeper. I think that we all want control because we fear. We fear things.
Hmm.
And the reason why we have fear is the response of not knowing what's going to happen next. So when you know what's going to happen next, things are a lot less fearful. Jack Ruby was, I believe, the assassin who assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated President Kennedy. Okay, but when there was a discussion whether he was going to be put to death or not, if I remember correctly, that he was really concerned and he was scared. And then in the end, when he was told that I think he was going to get put to death or whatever the penalty was, it escapes me right now, but he calmed down. I think it was a death penalty. He like immediately calmed down and like found peace, even though what was coming in front of him was death. We get
Hmm.
scared because we don't know what's going to happen next. People love stability. I go to my job at 9 o'clock. I clock out at 5. I know when my wife's going to be home. I know what I'm having for dinner. I know the movie that I like. I know the safe that I want to learn. So I think control is something we're all addicted to because I know my life. Part of Amuna is saying, number one, I don't really have control because the Coach Baruch Hu could literally make anything happen. So who am I to say that I really control the situation? But two is saying, of course, control is the opposite of fear, but I give over control to God. Like I actively give it over. I just do my best. And
Hmm.
whatever God has in store for me, that is what's coming next. And like there's no problem with that. And that is the ultimate victory because that is the response of the hero. Fear is the invitation to become a hero. So that could be as minor as you're claustrophobic. So you
Right.
force yourself into, small areas, and through that you're growing no longer scared of small spaces. Goes up to major things. I'm really afraid of commitment. Am I going to get married? Then what do you do is you commit. You learn how to be a person that commits. And your reward for that is you're a hero and you get to be wed,
Right.
right? Buying a house, right? Choosing a school for your children. These are all unknowns that really scare us, but we fight that fear, hopefully, and then we conquer. So I
Right.
agree with you. There's this addiction of stability, and I have to make this much money, and things have to be this amount health wise. But it's wrong. Again, it's all about doing what's right. I agree. Amuna is more about shutting up. Amuna is more about like just who cares? The only thing that cares is the Baruch, right? Like what I'm
Right.
saying? That
Interesting.
that's really what I think the conversation is.
One of my favorite essays is by Rabbi Soloveitchik, and he talks about what heroism means in Judaism versus what heroism means in a more like general sense. And I hope I don't butcher the word, the divrei harav, but I mean, it hit me pretty well, so I think I'll get it right. Concept of heroism in a more general sense is the superhero, the guy, the big gvir, the big guy who saves the day. He destroys his enemies. He saves, he gets the girl, or he saves the damsel in distress. He saves the city. He saves his family, whatever it is, which aren't inherently bad things, but that's just the idea of like you conquer. You accomplish this great task. You overcome this thing, which some, yeah, some are good, some are bad. What Rav Soloveitchik writes is like the concept of heroism is very similar to what Rabbi said, is this idea of giving up of yourself is how Judaism sees heroism. One of the greatest examples is coming up, the story in Parshias, is the story of Yaakov Avinu wrestling with the Malach of Esav.
Right.
At the very moment of, perceived victory, Yaakov has has the Malach Esav in his hands. It
Right.
was about to be a done deal. And he lets him go. And
Right.
that is the ultimate expression of heroism, according to Rav Soloveitchik. Within the light of Judaism, in general, other smaller, aspects of like sacrificing yourself and sacrificing your innate desires is an expression of the fight with the Malach of Esav. Sorry, of Yaakov Avinu and the Malach of Esav. So but it's just hard. It's very hard. It doesn't come naturally to people, myself included.
Yeah, but also but part of it is because we don't really know what it is. We just we have fear, so we run away. Or
Right.
there's a tremendous sacrifice that's asked of us, so we don't have it. Use Moshe Rabbeinu as an example. Moshe Rabbeinu was such a huge person, and I almost feel like there's no way to know how great he ever was. It's impossible. People just think he was great because he was an amazing leader, which he absolutely was. But look at his story. Moshe Rabbeinu grows up in a house where his somewhat adopted grandfather, whatever, literally hates his people and wants them all dead. He grows up in a society where like he knows he's different. He witnesses murder. He runs away, and then he's asked from God. Not just what that's a very intimidating. He's asked from God to do something in which Moshe Rabbeinu was terrified of doing. He's really scared, but he does it anyway. Like Moshe Rabbeinu as a total hero. And just Lahabda Alf of Dulles, okay, just to talk about superheroes for a second, just to show
Sure.
superheroes aren't really great. Like when I was a kid, Superman was like fun, but he's not impressive. He's super strong. Sometimes he has to fight kryptonite, and that's pretty much it. Superman is not interesting. If you want to talk about an interesting superhero, let's talk about Batman.
Right.
Batman gets
Exactly.
depressed, right? His
Right.
parents die. He falls into depression. He's terrified of bats, and he embraces his fear and depression, climbs above it, and instead he uses it to fuel him doing good. Batman is a hero,
Right.
right? So it's this sort of thing that we need to be looking at. Wallow in People wallow in their depression and their depravity and negative things they do, and they feel guilty, and they never move past it, or they never do anything with it. They try to get onto the next part of life so that they'll experience more depravity or whatever. Or hopefully they'll get a dopamine hit. But the response is something negative happened. I did something wrong or something negative happened to me. This is an invitation for me to become great, right? God chose that I should get the invitation today. Not everyone gets the invite of their car blowing up. I don't want my car to blow up, but if God makes my car blow up, right,
Right.
then that is my time to be bigger than I've ever been because I find this moment challenging. So I'm going to take it. I got fired. If you get fired, you know what your response should be is like, this is a moment for me to be better than I was then. That's what it is. It's like, in a way, it should be exciting. But instead, we just like, oh my gosh, I had a hard day. And we wallow and wallow and wallow. These are
Right.
superheroes. This is heroism. To be able to hold the Sar Shel Esav and then know that it's right to let him. You know what the Sar Shel Esav is going to do? Maybe you'll let him go and he'll turn around. You're injured now. And he'll
Right.
smack you in the face. But he knows it's right. So he lets him go and he trusts because he knows that that's right.
I mean,
That's
that's the best
heroism.
example because that literally happened. Yaakov literally was injured. He had every
Yeah.
reason to finish the job, but he didn't.
Right, exactly. Not only when he let him go, how did he know what was going to happen next? The mouth didn't say, all right, let's just, all right, we'll just say you won and I'm going to go that way. This one, the mouth just says, let me go. Like,
Right.
imagine someone like tried to kill you, okay? And like you have him in a headlock and he like breaks one of your, he hits you and like you're in tremendous pain. He's like, all right, I tap out. He'll let me go. Like, you're gonna let him go. He's gonna kill you, right?
Right.
But he knows what's right, and he does it. It's like so amazing. It's
Right.
incredible. This is people. This is the Tzelem Elokim within us. The Rambam in the beginning of Moreh Nevuchim is what's Tzelem Elokim? It's intelligence. What's intelligence? Intelligence isn't, oh, I suck, I'm scared, I run away. That's what animals do. Intelligence is that I see what's before me. How do I become elevated? How do I transcend
Right.
as a person? Right? That's what we're after. Right.
Interesting. Before I continue, is there any direction
Okay.
Rebbe wants to take it?
That's what?
Before I continue, is there any direction that Rebbe wants to take it?
I'm good. If I see an opening, I might start asking you some questions. But
You can
Forget
start
it.
here. I've exhausted most of them. So if Rebbe wants to take, kind of take it over.
okay,
Go for
yeah,
it.
let's do that. Let's do that.
All right.
Okay, so you ended up, as we mentioned before, choosing cinematography. Why would you do that?
Wait, can Rebbe start over? I'm sorry. It's gonna look off because Rebbe's off centered. There you go. Sorry, I'm nitpicky.
No
There we
problem.
go. All right, start on it.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So Tzvi, you said before that you're a cinematographer. You chose cinematography. Why would you choose such a not classic profession? Why would you
Right.
do that?
I mean, for me, I knew I always liked creating. Well, I guess going back to what we were saying earlier about like this, expressive side of like, I always felt my best when I was making something. So I grew up doing Legos, and my dad was a huge part of like my start into like the photo video like world. My dad's an IT, but like he also is like very into like he's also an artist. I mean, my dad is like I don't know like I don't think I've ever showed you. He does like this incredible sketch art,
You did. It's amazing stuff.
like photorealism. Like it's insane. Like he's really really great at that. But he showed me how to do stop motion animation. We were watching ET when I was little, and I think he showed me like this behind the scenes of ET, or it could have been a different Spielberg movie. And I just remember being so entranced by how much effort and work goes into making a single second of film. So that was really cool for me. What really pushed me was in eighth grade. I made a graduation video for my class. And, it was very simple. Looking back on it, it was probably the worst video I've ever made in my life. But it was, in a way, the best because I we played it at the graduation that night. My mom got texts and calls from all of my classmates' moms, like so many of my
Really?
classmates' moms saying like, "Oh my gosh!" Like it made me cry. It made me so emotional. Like sitting there seeing their son graduating. Obviously, your son's so talented. Like it made me so it made me feel so much. And my mom was relaying this information to me, and at the time, I was thinking to myself, "Whoa! I have the ability to create something that makes a person feel a certain way." As the years have gone on, I've noticed that power and that ability could be used for all sorts of um, motives, both negative and positive. So, I hope every day that the videos that I make are for whether it's for my clients or for myself, there's a positive association, there's a positive goal associated with it. But ultimately, I did it because I saw I was good at it. I think that's it's a maybe more blunt thing. Like I knew that I wanted to do something different. I felt it within myself that I want to maybe even be different, but that's maybe a different conversation, or maybe it's the same. I don't know. Depends on your follow up.
What?
But
No,
yeah.
I don't. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, why did you want to be different? I mean, you could have chosen a normal 9 to 5 job. Was it that you had to be expressive? Did you feel that at a younger age, and therefore, as an artist, you were looking for your mode of expression?
Well,
Was
no.
it more
First of all,
like this is
I
very
enjoyed it.
cool? What was it?
I enjoyed it. I like that it gave me something to be known for. And I always pursued things like that. Like I was a soloist in Miami Boys Choir for 4 years. I think Remy knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, yeah. And my school was crazy about that. My school loved that one of their students was like a soloist in Miami Boys Choir. So they like they put posters of me on all like the on lunchroom, like whatever. And then the whole
Actually,
school
that's
knew,
amazing.
and the whole school knew. So I like the attention. In recent time, I've noticed that I think I don't want to turn this into like a whole like therapy session, but I knew that like I always had like maybe it was like a self conscious thing that I always wanted to be seen and be unique and be special. I think that's something that everyone struggles with to some extent. I think everyone wants to not be lost in the blur of society. I think
Yeah,
people,
but as you said, everyone wants that. What made you the one that jumped? Why did you do that?
I didn't see another choice, I guess. I didn't see another choice. And I had so many opportunities to do something else. I applied to college, I mean, 4 times technically, but really just 2 times to 2 colleges, Brooklyn College and YU. I got accepted to both each time. Um, and I had all the opportunities in the world to not do this. And I still did it because I guess maybe it's what we were speaking about before, about that voice that's telling you like you need to do this. Like there is no other option for you. And I think about that today. I mean, if I see that, one day something comes along, maybe AI takes my job first, and I'm out of a job, then I'll do something else. And because ultimately, the reason I do it now is because my most meaningful goal is not to make videos, support my family, and to raise a bias Neman, and to raise children who are Abdei Hashem. But yeah, I guess maybe it was just me following that little voice in my head that said this is what you need to be doing.
So people that had that sort of background, it's either that inner voice of this is right, or it's like an obsession. Which one would you categorize it more for you?
A little bit of both. My wife will definitely say it's an obsession because all I talk about is work and videography and what's the next camera I want to buy. I don't know. It's hard. I guess it's hard to know what the difference is. It's hard to know when it's something meaningful and when something is an obsession. I never thought of it like that actually. I mean, I do in a way, but I never thought of it as like either obsession or like your calling.
And do you feel like is it you said before you love creating. Is this the way that you paint paintings? Is do you feel this is the creative side of you that gets to be artistic? Is that how you look at it? Or do you look at it more as like this is a nice medium of me to help people? Because it can be both, but like what's it tapping in within you? Curious.
It's changed over time for sure. It's definitely changed. It started out like just creating. Like I started out thinking like I'm going to Hollywood and I am going to be a film producer in Hollywood or a director in Hollywood. And that has shifted in many ways. I'm still kind of pursuing the same path of cinematography and video production. Now it's manifested itself into just I'm running a business. So, and this is more of a recent development. Like I used to be like not happy that I what's it called? I used to be like unhappy that I'm like stuck doing schools and yeshiva videos because like, ugh, what am I doing with like I'm like filming like a bunch of preschoolers picking their nose, and like that used to be like what am I doing with my life? And then I'm like, "Oh, wait, I am offering a service that is actually really really helpful to my clientele, to my prospects. This is just business. I'm just running a business, and this is what my business does." And I shifted it like that. So now it's more of like I'm running a business that I want to be majorly successful. So not everything I do has to be like a groundbreaking creative project, and I'm very content with that now. Like I'm very and that might change. I might get really, really like I might get a bug to make something really creative. And Baruch Hashem happens to be a lot of my stuff is creative right now. Like I always offer creative solutions for things. So because like I do still enjoy making creative things, but ultimately it's really just that I'm running a business and I'm still doing what I love. I love making I love the process of creating videos, even if it's not a groundbreaking, doesn't like satiate my creative thirst, I guess. I don't know.
Are you an artist?
What's an artist?
You tell me what you think an artist is.
I think an artist is somebody who wants to send a message to the world in a way that is authentic to themselves. That might be wrong, but that's the that's the definition that popped in my head. I never like thought of it, I guess. I think what
Okay, are you
all
an
artists
artist?
have in common. I guess so, to a certain extent, yeah. I would call myself an artist within that context.
Within that context, well, if that's what an artist is, that's the only context now.
Okay, fine. Fair enough, yeah. According to my definition of an artist, I'm an artist.
Do you feel that way? Or do you feel like a businessman?
No, I definitely feel more like a businessman now, but that's because of that shift. And at first I thought it would be like a sacrifice, but I realized like the goals that I'm setting for myself are so high from I'm saying the financial goal that I need to hit in order to, sustain my family is such a high, well, we can talk about this as well, like the crazy expectation of living in Chutz La'aretz. Whether we move to Israel or not, I have no idea. But in case we do end up staying here, which now is looking a little bit likely, but I'm not sure. In any event, there's an expectation that you need to make a lot of money, more so for myself because I'm the one who's making my own path. I'm not relying on any guardrails or bumpers, bowling reference, bumpers that anyone else has set for me. I'm not joining a company that has existed for 20 years that is, a huge accounting firm or bank or anything. I'm setting my own path. So for me, I realized early on that I need to make a lot of money and I can't necessarily do that.
I don't understand that. Why do you need to make a lot of money? I would say, if anything, Tzvi, the thing that put you on the map is you were you, right? You were some
Okay.
kid and yeshiva here in Eretz Yisrael, and you said, "I'm just going to do this thing," and it
Right.
was from an artistic point of view. What happened is that you will reach a certain level of artistic talent, and then you got a lot of bikush, and then you started building a business. Why can't you be an artist? Maybe instead of I don't know. I think you live in I don't know. Actually, do you remember?
Tina.
Maybe I shouldn't say it. Okay,
That's
Tina, it's fine. You said it. Okay, but instead of living in Brooklyn, let's say, okay, maybe live in I don't know Arizona. Like, why? Why do you feel the pressure of money so much? And do you think that that's right? If you feel that you do have this huge, amazing creative side to you that you could bring out and help a lot of people with in that way, because that's really the thing that makes you unique. Yeah, you can put videos together, and yes, you indeed are talented, but which is clear from your clientele. The reason people keep coming back and they're telling their friends is because you're good. But you have this artistic side that you feel like you're using less. Why not tap into it?
So, I guess again, I don't want to make it all about me. I want to see like how much I could like it could be like related to others. I can answer for myself that it's not so much that it's like diminished so much. I'm just prioritizing. I hear what you're saying. It goes back to your question, I guess. You're saying why do that? Like why prioritize money over my creative side? Because I listen, there are people out there, Jews and non-Jews, who are ultimately pursuing a creative and artistic life where they are doing what they love all the time. And that can even go for people who are in kollel, people who are learning, people who are not prioritizing money. And this again, this goes back to what I was saying about self-expression versus submission. That there are, like a Jew should ask himself, "What is my tafkid? What does God want from me?" But when do you know when to raise or prioritize what you innately want to do with your life versus what you think Hashem wants from you in your life. And like where that conflicts is again the learning time, the davening time. There's a lot of it's the practical. Sometimes it's existential. But so yeah, so for me, I decided that I knew for me like a cola life is not for me, like or like the for sure or a purely artistic life is not for me because ultimately I just it's not that I feel like I'm sacrificing much. It's that I am prioritizing something new or something that I think is of higher importance. So for me, what's of higher importance is earning a parnasa for my family. That for me is always going to be if I had to decide between doing video production and making money for my family, I'm obviously going to choose the latter because for me, it's not like I'm like sacrificing this huge. No, it's like I am align my sense of meaning and fulfillment with that which is of the highest priority in my life. And that is serving God. And that is making a parnasa for my family. And that conflicts a lot. Like that conflicts in the sense that I don't feel like I serve God to my best ability when I'm pursuing success in business and making a parnasa for my family, which is why I made this entire podcast. So I hope that answers the
Right.
question. Yeah.
It did. So let me shift it a little bit. Let's say, okay, that your inner voice, or let's say a heavenly voice came down from heaven and said, Tzvi, you've been doing good until now, but we would like you to pivot a little bit more to the artistic, unique talents which you possess. What would you do?
I would listen to that
What
heavenly
is it?
voice.
What is
I hope I would listen to that heavenly
no,
voice. If
no,
I heard
no,
it,
of course you would. No, of course you would. No, I'm not questioning that Tzvi, you're a great guy. Of course you would. No, I'm saying artistically. I'm curious if we would
what do you
let
mean?
Tzvi out of the box. Meaning what would you do with that like license to kill? Like, okay, now I can be artistic and I can do like, well, is it another direction that you would also add, or would you make different content? Would you speak to different people? Would you pursue Hollywood? Where would you go?
I think I'd figure out a way to well, what I would really wanna do, what I've always wanted to do, and I still plan on doing it at some point in my life, is making films, like, on Jewish themes that even a non-Jew could watch. My dream is to make a film, like, not a documentary, like a movie about the story of Elisha ben Avuya or Acher
Yes,
in
yes,
Chagiga. Like,
yes,
that would
yes.
be like,
Someone
imagine, like,
needs to make a movie
yeah.
of that. Oh
So
my
I'm saying that's
gosh.
something if I ever see the opportunity to
Do you
do
know
that.
that made me flip out? Do you know that Gemara made me flip out?
Really? Interesting.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So in a
It's my
previous
favorite
life,
story of all time, yeah.
I was an academic in a previous life. Okay. And I was going, I think I was a double or triple major. I don't remember at the time. Maybe it was a double major and a minor, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I really wanted like a PhD in biology and I wanted also in psychology. I took this class with Dr. Norman Adler, Bracha, and he was teaching the psychology of religion and neurology of religion. And we had this, I grew up from like Western yeshiva, so like, I was always learning
Mhm.
and stuff. But he had this, so in this course, he was teaching about, one of them was Elisha ben Avuya. And I was like so captivated by how do you become one of the Tanaim? You're literally a one-on-one with Rabbi Akiva. You're the Rebbe of Rabbi Meir, and you fall off the derech. I think that'd be an amazing, amazing thing to do.
Right. I always saw it so excuse me. So I always saw it in a way that I think is overlooked. I very much empathize with Elisha ben Avuya. I think that when people are reading the Gemara on its surface level and the story on its surface level, he's like this terrible guy. And like, yeah, he did some bad stuff. There are some
Horrible things.
Meforshim that say that he killed the yeshiva students or he sold, not sold, he ratted out Jews to the Romans.
You added them
Uh,
out, yeah. Yeah.
whether that happened or not, we're not sure. There's different girsos. And there's the Yerushalmi and trust me, I have like a 20-page because I have, by the way, I have like a 20-page research paper for the event when I'm ready to start writing the script because I am ready to do it. But
I got
okay, we'll schmooze about it. We'll schmooze about it. But yeah, I mean, what I love about that, in a way that's maybe tied to the show. I think of it as like as a real tragedy, but I don't see him as like a terrible person. I think the reason that story is the way it is. I think why it happened and like why the Gemara goes into so much length and detail on the story is because it's representative of the existential like dilemma that every Jew faces at some point in their lives of like, what do I feel my heart is pulling me towards versus what I know is right. It's different than what we were saying. I think what we were saying is like things that you think are good things that you are like, I want to do something meaningful. I want to run a production company, even though that means I do less things that are innately Jewish, like learning and davening. I know that's a dumbed down, way of saying it, but for that story, it's different. For that story, it's really like the negative things that your heart is being pulled toward, even though they look positive. Like, Elisha ibn Avuya was drawn to Roman music and culture and like, all these things. And that was one of the things that quote unquote led him astray. That's not the main thing or the only thing. The real thing that I think is really the story of his father, which the Gemara also goes into detail on. Without going into so much, I think that, for me, that's why. But to answer the initial question, like I would make films like that. I'd love to make a film about all the Tanaim. That'd be awesome. Like Rabbi Akiva would be a crazy good film.
Yeah.
Because that's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like again, like
let me ask
telling these stories.
I don't have to. I have to wrap up soon, but I
Okay.
got to get to the bottom of this though. But
Yeah.
okay, so in your opinion, what was Elisha ibn Avuya's mistake? I'll tell you my opinion, but I want to hear yours first. What was his mistake?
So, I mean, I'm cheating because I know a few of the different answers that Rav Soloveitchik gives that other Rabbanim give.
I want your answer.
No, it happens
You
to
can
be.
steal one of their answers. What's your answer?
No, I'd say it's I want to adopt their answer because it's the one that I resonate with the most. Like I don't have a separate answer than that one. For when I'm for something like a Gemara, I feel like I need to. Rebbe is probably going to push back on me on this. I like to not make up my own like conclusions. I really want to hear what the Rabbanim say on it because, like
Both. You need both.
You need both. Okay, fair enough. But this one works because it resonates with both. I think Elisha ibn Avuya's mistake is that he wasn't able to distinguish between the two sides of himself. That's what Rav Soloveitchik writes, and that's actually what I was kind of like getting at. That he basically, when the Baskel came out and said "Shuvu banim," I'm getting the line wrong. But "Shuvu banim."
Shuvu banim shovu chutz me'acher.
It was really, the Baskel was really saying, it happens to be a different Gersa Yerushalmi than the Bavli, but what it was really saying was, Chutz mi'acher, all my sons should return, wayward sons return, except for the Acher side of, not Elisha ben Avuya, but really Acher, the other, the part of him that was drawing him away from God. That's the part that he wanted to leave behind, but Acher, Elisha ben Avuya, didn't hear that, or he didn't interpret it that way. He thought the Baskel was referring to him in his entirety.
So that was his mistake, that he just misunderstood what the Baskel was saying? And that's your opinion?
In a way, in a dumbed down version, yes. I think that he should have, or not should have, I don't know. What his mistake was that he didn't think he had the choice to return. He didn't think he had the option to go back because the Baskel came down and said that you can't come back. But it was, the Baskel was really referring to Acher because every Jew really has a way of returning.
So I have a different interpretation personally.
Okay.
I think Elisha ibn Avuya's mistake is that he never did things for the right reasons, and maybe he got that a little bit from his father Avuya.
That's the father, right? Because his father wanted him to be,
right, to just be big, right? But it's the same theme on each one of the stories when he falls off the derech, right? So when he sees the boy that falls down doing shilach haken, so it's like, it's not. His response is like, "Oh, schar v'onesh isn't fair. This isn't real." The big response. Right, the big response to the Baskel of Chutz me'acher, he thinks it's him. It might have even been him. But if God told you you're getting no more scar for anything that you ever do in the future, you're destined for hell forever. So that means you shouldn't do the right thing. Heaven is just there for the level 1 people. You get a spiritual Ferrari in Shemayim if you do this thing. Here's your carrot. Okay, but we're supposed to be beyond that. We don't do things because they reward us. We do things because they're right. Elisha ibn Avuya never reached that level. He didn't do things because they were right. His response to the Baskel should have been, fine, I don't get a chelik in Shemayim. I'm done for. I'm toast. But you are my God and I follow you anyway. That was his mistake, I think, personally. But I hear your take. Very interesting. Okay, Tzvi, I got to wrap up. Okay, but I'm so happy that we had this conversation. Okay,
always a pleasure to speak with you, Rebbe.
And of course, I mean, I don't know who gained more. Totally might be me here. It was a really great conversation.
We both.
But you got to make that movie. We got to make that movie one day.
And I'll get Rebbe involved. We'll make it happen.
Absolutely, I'd love that. I'd love that. That'd be so much.
All right, Rebbe, thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome. Kol tov, Tzvi.
Kol tov.
We really hope that you're able to grow and enjoy with this amazing content that we just put together. Do us a favor. Don't just make it about you and me. Share this with the world. Get that Torah out there for everyone to see. Additionally, if you want to hear more, which we hope you do, you can subscribe to our content so that you can be up to date with all of the new amazing Torah that we have here in the yeshiva, pumping it out to you as the Klal.